Welcome to Infrastructure Week, where we cover all things lending tech and transformation. I'm Dave Silverstein, founder and CEO of Ned. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Infrastructure Week, where we're talking to different lending and capital executives across the United States. I'm really excited to be joined by my good friend, Bryce Kaiser, who works at City Innovations in Michigan. Bryce has been doing some incredibly innovative work building different types of financial products over at City Innovations, and really excited for him to share some of his learnings. Bryce, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today, as always.
Awesome. Yes, exactly. We get to go back and forth, a couple of times, and it's been really incredible getting to know about City Innovations. It's a really unique organization. Would love to maybe just get a little bit background for folks watching. Like, what's your work entail? Like, what's the day to day like? You are all kind of engaging with a number of different types of technology companies on a bunch of different fronts. So it would be great to get some background.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 60-second pitch on City Innovations is that we are a venture studio. We are located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have about 10 people on our team. We focus on bringing new ideas to market. We're in the business of building businesses. We have two sides of our company. One side works with existing corporations that are trying to bring new ideas to market. So they maybe have one product already and they want to do a second product, and they need to figure out how to bring that second thing to market, how to build it, how to finance it, how to market it, all those things. The other side of our business is a more traditional venture studio where we will either accelerate or incubate startup ideas and businesses. We focus on B2B, digital, SaaS, and marketplace startups. So we don't do a lot with physical products. We are mostly in the digital space.
Gotcha. And, over the last couple months, as you've been now on the front lines working with a number of different startups, would love to hear a little bit about some of the capital requirements that you're seeing, specifically, I imagine in the Midwest here in the US. Like, what are startups really seeking in terms of capital? What are their needs? What are the use of proceeds? And how are you at City Innovations, and how's the team kind of angling to deliver for them?
Yeah, at the City Innovations, we work with with companies all across the country, but a lot of Midwest companies, and I would say Midwest values, where these are startups and founders that are building companies that have value from day one. They have good unit economics. They're not trying to build these billion-dollar unicorns. They don't want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. They have no interest in that. They just want to build these businesses with good values, good economics, run them for a few years, build a good team, and then hopefully exit in 5, 10, maybe 15 years. And so traditional capital, like venture capital tracks, are not always the best fit for those types of folks. Like, there's this concept of venture scale. You have to be building towards that $1 billion exit if you want to go get good terms around venture capital. So these founders that we talk to are looking for a different type of capital that is more founder friendly, leaves them in a position of control. They don't have to be on the fundraising treadmill forever. And so they gravitate towards us, and we have some really fun conversations. And then our twist on it is that we believe that these startups don't need to have millions of dollars in the bank account. What they need is what that money goes towards, which is going to be goods and services. And so we have a team of people who are builders, who are makers, who are marketers, and we provide those services that capital would go towards. And we call it creative capital, and we've had some fun with that, and that's what ultimately led us to talking to Ned.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit more about creative capital, because I think what you're doing, right now for your stakeholders, your customers and partners is, it's a twist on an age-old practice, right? So when you think of capital, in many ways, City Innovations is, considering like the value of that capital as like the services that you provide, right? And so, today just rolled out a really innovative program for these stakeholders. Would love to hear about that Creative Capital program and how really that came to be, and how you're kind of structuring it in these early days.
Yeah. So the Creative Capital program is one of two programs on our startup studio side, and so that's the world I'm responsible for is supporting those startups on that side. So Creative Capital supports our accelerator program. This with our Creative Capital program, with Creative Capital, we look for existing businesses that are maybe doing $250,000 to $500,000 a year in revenue, and have aims of doing $3 million, $5 million a year in revenue, but they're kind of stuck where they don't have a lot of cash available to invest into their business, and they're maybe not attractive for raising traditional venture capital, or don't want to go down that path. So we will provide services now, which they need, and then get compensated for it well off into the future in a form of revenue-based financing. So they will pay us for those services in the form of a revenue share many months or years down the line. So we win when they win. It's great. It's very well aligned. But we created the Creative Capital program because it was what we needed. It was what, as a founder, I always wanted. And now that I'm in this position, I was like, all right, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make the thing I always wanted. So this is a way of getting services when you need them without having to pay all this money up front, right? Like, if I build this product or if I build this growth engine, I will get sales. I will have money in the future, but I just don't have it right now. So this is a way of kind of getting these companies out of that sticking point, out of the chicken and the egg scenario. So we say, all right, don't worry about paying for any of this right now. Just focus on building a great product, focus on marketing, getting customers. And then when the revenue comes, then our compensation comes later on.
That's awesome. And so, like, if I'm putting it in like layman's terms, like vendor credit has been around for like hundreds if not a thousand years or more. Like pretty much every B2B business has to some degree payment terms, like let's say net 15, net 30. There's a lot of different arms at City Innovations. It sounds like a lot of it is providing digital services, sales, or growth oriented services. And so you're kind of flipping the script on vendor credit in a way with what I might have probably improperly deemed the Creative Capital program. I don't know if that's the actual name. So if it's it might be called something else, but you're viewing it really as partnership, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to partner with companies who are at a point certainly of like material revenue, but might not have the liquidity to afford a studio set of services that you might provide. And so it's patient. Tell me a little bit about how you think of these companies a little bit more, and how you kind of think of the lifetime of working with them. What we've sort of seen in collaborating is setting certain terms where you can kind of get to partner up with them for years, frankly, and there's like delayed repayments or revenue sharing over time. How have you kind of considered those types of terms up front? Maybe, what's the conversation around your team's table in structuring this type of deal? Or, how do you think about crafting the right formula for the precise business that you're working with?
Yeah, we start with a standard offer and then work from there. So we start off with looking at how can we help over a 90-day period? Can we build something for them? Can we help them get customers over that 90-day period? And then where will their company be after those 90 days? And then if it seems like that is a relevant time frame, then we'll get involved. But what we've seen so far is that the starting point of our engagement is not where it ends. So we get in and we will start building something. Maybe we do some software development, and then they say, hey, we're actually struggling with this marketing thing over here. Can you help out with that? And so we are able to drop in fractional resources all across their organization and we can stay attached for much longer than the 90-day period if that's what's right. So we do look at the unique circumstances of each of those businesses. We have one business that we're working with right now where there's a lot of seasonality to their business, and they do very well in the summer. They don't do so well in the winter. And so we are building our terms around that too. So it's not one size fits all. We are actually matching it to the unique circumstances of that business when they are forecasting their growth. And is that going to be over the next 6 months or a year, 2 years, whatever? We're patient, we're flexible, we're okay on our side. We just want to see that company succeed. So we want to set terms that work for them.
So Bryce, where does this type of idea actually come from? Like, where did it start in your organization?
Yeah, so this idea has been incubating for years. So, and there was co-emergent thought. So I only joined City Innovations 9 months ago, but this was something that I was pondering for a couple of years. And then Josh Barker, who's the CEO of City Innovations, he was also pondering it too. And then we met up one day where we both said, hey, kind of have this idea. I have this idea, like, oh, let's do this together. So for me, this started from, I built 5 startups of my own over the years and had some successes, had a couple failures. And then I also did a bunch of consulting work working with hundreds of other founders. And I just saw this challenge happening over and over again, where these founders needed these resources. They needed something to be built. They needed help with marketing, but they just couldn't afford it right now. I just saw this time and time again. And these founders were just left on an island without any support. So I was like, there's got to be a better way to help them out. And Josh was seeing the same thing. Also, City Innovations is a bootstrap venture studio. That might not mean a bunch to a lot, might not mean much to a lot of different people, but yeah. So traditionally, a venture studio is going to go out and raise, $10 million, $20 million, have limited partners and all that. We don't do that. So City Innovations, before being a venture studio, a true venture studio, was doing a bunch of agency work and built up a war chest and had some money in reserves. And so we fund our investments through our agency work, essentially. So we don't have the luxury of just having going out and raising more money. So we need to build an investment program that actually works for us. And so we can make a lot of smaller bets. So deploy $20,000 worth of services or $50,000 or $100,000 rather than writing $1 million checks and waiting 10 years to see what returns. So sure. We wanted to work with startups that could use our services, have good unit economics, are not going to be fundraising forever, and could actually share back in their proceeds in the next year or 2 years. So this allows us, with our bootstrap model, to actually keep this fund going indefinitely. So making a bunch of smaller bets and start to realize some returns sooner, even though it's not a big return. Like, we're not looking for 10x, 20x, 100x returns like some venture capitalists are, but we are seeing some of that return coming back even just months after our investment. So that works for
awesome.
us.
And when you talk to your I don't know, do you call them customers, your partners, stakeholders, like startups? What's the insider term at City Innovations?
It depends on which program they're going through, but we do identify as like their co-founding partner. We definitely, we partner with them, but we'll call them clients or startups for simplicity.
Sure. So when you're talking to your startups, I imagine rolling out any new product, whether it's a financial product or a software platform, you name it, like rolling out a product, always requires a level of education. I'm curious how you and others on the team started to engage the founders that you work with, get their feedback, and kind of loop in that feedback into what is otherwise an iterative product development right now. What's their feeling? What's their feedback been?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So this, and you've seen some of this build up over time. You've seen our evolution of thinking, because we candidly, like my background is not in finance. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a builder. I can make products. I can sell products, but I am not a finance guy. And so I knew this outcome that I wanted, and I knew what would work well for founders, but I didn't know how to connect the dots from a financial instrument side of things. And so some of this was trial and error, and we would present something to founders, and then we would go talk to accountants and lawyers and finance people and be like, oh, okay, you can't do that thing that you want to do. And then we'd have to, make some improvements. But generally, the founders are pretty receptive to it. They are excited to see a way of financing their business without giving up equity, without giving up control. So it was very well received in the beginning. So it's not hard to get founders interested in it, right? Like we don't have to market our services. Let me put it that way. But
Sure.
When we get into the actual details and the nuances of the agreement, that's where there is an education component, and we err on the side of overeducating because we want them to really know what they're signing up for, what this means for their business, because they a founder at first glance might just be excited that they don't have to give up equity, but there are still implications for their business. If they are going to give up any amount of their future revenue, that's revenue that they can't draw for themselves, or revenue that they're not putting into their marketing or sales or product development. So they have to make sure that's accounted for. So we are building up pro formas with them. We're modeling that together and then adjusting the terms based off of what's realistic and where they're trying to go. So there is a big education component, and then refining the terms over time with them.
Yeah, for sure. And as you've kind of like plowed back some of those insights into what is otherwise a pretty iterative process right now for City Innovations, like where do you see some of that active feedback heading? Do you see certain enhancements that you're going to bring to bear over the coming months? Is there a different type of financial product for certain types of businesses that you're thinking about? Would love to get a sense of where you see this all heading for your company altogether.
Yeah, we're still, I'd say we're relatively early and still learning a lot.
Yep.
And so I think if we were to have this conversation even 6 months from now, maybe some things would change. But the product that we currently have, we like it. We're going to keep offering that for quite a while. Our challenge right now is becoming really good at our own vetting process to make sure that we're not wasting the time of the entrepreneur, and make sure that this is likely a good fit for them before they spend hours talking to us. So that's our challenge right now. Sure. Is more on the qualification and disqualification process, to making sure it's a really good fit. But we previously thought that we maybe could do a one size fits all approach to this product. We realized we can't, so we need to have some flexibility. Fortunately, working with Ned, we do have that flexibility in there, and it's been great. We've received a lot of support. I could go on and on about that, but we for another point, yeah. So absolutely. So we'll probably just make slight tweaks to this based off of who's the recipient. Another program that we're building up is more of an incubation program. So we are now catching a lot of founders who are even earlier than that $200,000 annual revenue threshold. So these are people with great ideas, they're subject matter experts, and they want to build their business, and they need a team to help them. So we are looking at what products can we create to help them. So that's we don't have that all figured out, but that's what we're thinking about.
So separate from discussion about creating a new credit product, right? You've created a unique vendor credit product using revenue sharing to make sure you're receiving that value back over time. What comes next after giving that type of effort a green light at an organization like City Innovations? And I ask because there are other similar organizations to City Innovations, across the U.S. Let's say another venture studio or accelerator, or digital services provider in California or Florida, you name it. what is the sequence of questions that you asked yourselves internally that you had to answer to make this a reality? Yeah, would love to hear the playbook that's forming.
Yeah, I should probably document this now. We're reflecting back on it. But so first off, we started with an intention. Our intention was that we wanted to move from a dollars per hour group to a dollars over ventures group, right? Like that's what a venture studio does. And then we had to work within our constraints of an organization. We didn't want to go raise a fund, et cetera, a bunch of other things. So we set the intention, and then we figured out, what are the pathways to get there. We, figured out this vendor credit model. It was really hard to find literature on it because there weren't other venture studios doing exactly what we were doing, and so we had to look at different industries, and there's a lot of education. Fortunately, we were connected to Ned early on, and that helped us out a lot. But when we started talking, we were talking, or one of our hesitations at that time was, how do we scale this up? Like, we understood how we could do this for one investment, one bet. But if you want to do this 10 times a month, 100 times a month, how do you do that, right? Like, yep. So what's your tooling? What is your thesis? What's your vetting process? All those things. So it's really like looking at, how do we operationalize this? We didn't want to hire a team of 10 different analysts and have a big finance department or anything like that. So we needed to create a process that could work with the people that we had and could scale. So I think that's another consideration, is look at the people that you have right now. How can you build the processes and the mech suit around them so that they can do more and be more successful. So, finding the tooling that allowed automated revenue-based financing repayments was huge for us, because we didn't want to track down the startups every single month. And also, startups don't have time for that. So this was something that would work for them. So we were looking at the process. How do we scale it up? But so we did take the time to build out a pretty robust checklist for all of these founders, all these startups that we work with. And I think that's just a really important component for anyone that's looking at going down this path and making sure that's a good fit for you. One of the things that we had to consider was, if we have no influence on their marketing and sales, are we going to be comfortable doing any type of revenue-based finance agreement with them? And we've concluded we are not going to play in that space. We have to touch their marketing motion, their sales motion in some way in order to feel confident. Like, we need to know that we can contribute to that. We can't just make a pure engineering play. So I think that's something else to look at. If you, it just becomes a little bit riskier if you are only, writing software for someone. So awesome. You want to plug into more of their business and really partner with them as well. Like, don't just build something and get out, right? Like, plan on being with them for a long period of time. One of our startups, I was at the gym the other morning and he called me up out of the blue. He's like, I've got this big meeting today. Can you just talk to me? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just talk. So you just have to be prepared to be in their corner for a long period of time and really believe in them. And because you're betting on them, you really want them to be successful. So I think that's just another consideration. But I do encourage more groups to look at this. When you start putting the numbers together, it's not so scary. You can, and when you have the right tools and people in place, it's very doable.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
I guess in closing, given where you said, I could always add in a question about AI, but I think we'll hold that for the next conversation. Bryce, I so appreciate you joining Infrastructure Week. I think what you're doing is, certainly innovative in the credit space. I'm pretty sure there's going to be others that are looking to replicate what you're probably doing. So excited to continue this dialogue. Thanks again.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.